Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video here on the EGL channel. Time for another Call of Duty catch-up, the CoD Catchup here with Tunn. As said on the EGL channel, today is, well, the day we go through and catch up what's been happening over the last week or so in Call of Duty. Some of the news that we'll be going through as well, and then talking about some bigger points towards the end. Again, I'm sort of like playing with the idea of continuing and doing this live at some point and sort of seeing how it's going to go. But so far, we're just going to go through some memes first because that's always the best way. And this one, actually, like I'll be honest, there's some of the stuff that gets put on Reddit. I find it very unfunny. Like I feel like such an old man now, but this one did make me laugh. Whoever's made this one up, that's incredible. Cold creme, my goodness me. This was another one, very relatable to myself, actually, and I thought exactly the same thing. Of course, Formula 1 Call of Duty, Russell accused Bottas of breaking the gentleman's agreement of moving to the right-hand side, causing the crash, of course, but... yeah, this was crazy. If anybody was watching, it was indeed fucked up. If anybody did, keep an eye on that one. Also, just a completely different PSA. If you haven't watched Drive to Survive, watch it so you can get an F1. Like a lot of the Call of Duty scene have. Let's move on, though, to maybe a little bit more news. Of course, the Cold War Season 3 and Warzone more roadmap, I should say. God, my goodness, I can't even speak. Of course, the main point of this one is that Standoff is coming back. Let's just open this one up and go into, well, let's actually just try and open the actual tweet first and have a look at this roadmap. We'll bring this one, that's far too big to have a look at on this screen. Let's see, can we zoom this bitch out? No, we can't. We can't zoom this bitch out. We cannot. Anyway, besides the point, you've already seen it all at this point. We know that Standoff's coming into it. We know that there's plenty of stuff coming to Season 3 with a completely different Warzone map update, which, I mean, it's the main reason I haven't ever played Warzone in so long, is the fact that the map's garbage. I don't like it. That's pretty much it. Too much going on. Too much going on. I want more Blackout, less Warzone is kind of where I'm at on this one. But of course, Season 3 coming, as said, the most important part of that is Standoff is coming to Black Ops Cold War, which, I mean, look, it has to go into the map pool like pretty much instantly. It's no surprise to see that Raid is currently probably the most picked and the favourite map out of all of them throughout Cold War. So Standoff coming in there as another very, very good Black Ops 2 map will, of course, make things very, very interesting. Let's move on to, well, I mean, why Standoff was so good. The Optic van. Bang. Remember Hex in the booth? I mean, what was Hex doing in the booth? Was he literally just cheerleading at this point? This is kind of a topic of conversation of, I miss this. I miss this. We'll continue on, though. Ravens dropping Dylan for Zaptius. Now, this one caught me off guard a little bit because Dylan... He obviously has been enigmatic for any team he's really been on for the past few years now. So it was interesting to see that he has been replaced. But London, things aren't necessarily going very well. And again, it just sort of harps back to that thing I say all the time. The risk isn't necessarily there for teams to try out things like this. I mean, it's a full overhaul for the Royal Ravens. Yes, okay, they've had some unfortunate timing with Zero, etc., etc. But at the same time, it's a full overhaul apart from Shoney staying in there, the leader of the squad, really. And let's see if he can hold on to what would be the final man of the original starting roster at the beginning of the season. So Zaptius in, very, very good player. Cast over him. I think the first time I did was probably World War II. So yeah, know him pretty well in terms of how he plays. He's a very, very good player, very smart player, very good search and destroy player. Overall, just a good acquisition. Interested to see how they're going, but as I said, it kind of harps back to these teams. They can take the risk of trying these challenger players out. If they're performing well, they get a shot, and all of a sudden you're looking at something that might work out, it might not. Even if it doesn't, you're in the major anyway. So which kind of leads me to a point at the very end of this video of that, well, there's not really any consequence to trying this sort of thing. It's very much a talking point throughout the whole world at this moment in time. Of course, the European Super League that might be coming out of football, and we have a touching point on that was discussed on Reddit, and I'd like to maybe chip into that as well. But Shoney is indeed the last man standing. Of course, no more Rated, no more Mad Cat, no more Alex, no Zero, Joe, Scraps, Wuskin. I mean, we haven't seen Afro. I believe we will. I mean, I don't know why Swizz isn't in there. He's the only one left, basically, from the Royal Ravens last year, apart from the side of the coaching staff, of course. But yeah, just jumping in this one. Feel bad for Nasty. He was good at Malfair and looked decent in this game. If the visa shit could be sorted, then he could be in the league. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Nasty's an incredible player, and I think he could do very, very well in the Call of Duty League. But at this moment in time, visas, etc., are an issue. There's players like Nasty, there's players like Harry, there's players like Afro who would all do very, very well in the squad. LEG on about dropping Vivid, which is incredible considering how well he has been playing for this team. LEG not necessarily doing as well as they maybe did at the beginning, but at the same time, it doesn't seem as if that would be the opportune way to go. And now let's get into a bit more of a discussion kind of topic. Let's talk more around some discussions rather than just covering some stuff. So what would you guys, we are starting a little bit of fun before we get into something a little bit more serious. What would you guys have your best out of 11? Octane with a fire idea. If you were to make the ultimate best of 11 series to play, what map mode combination has to be in it from previous years? Let's go on to the tweet. I want to see some of the replies to this one before we jump in. Seaside Hardpoint. I didn't think Seaside Hardpoint was actually that terrible of a map. London Dogs, no, absolutely not. Nothing from Modern Warfare. If I'm being real, nothing from Modern Warfare. Need some S&D in there. I'm thinking of the Infection or Stronghold. Infection would be a good one. I do agree with Octane there. Anything with Fringe, to be honest. Yeah, Fringe was a very, very good map. Let's see what somebody's really even broke it down here. Raid Hardpoint, yeah. Warhawk S&D, yeah. Standoff CTF, yes. Freight Search and Destroy Slums. Slums Hardpoint was pretty decent, actually. Frequency Control, Aftermath Search and Destroy. Hacienda Hardpoint. Yeah, it was okay. London Dock. You see, London Dock's Hardpoint was interesting, but it was too... I don't know. I'm not a big Modern Warfare fan, full stop. Let's just go back to what everybody on Reddit was saying. We've got another one here. View entire discussion. Let's have a look. Raid Hardpoint, Black Ops 2, Ghost, Warhawk, Search and Destroy, W Comeback Uplink. That's the only reason I miss Jetpack so much is because of Uplink. Black Ops 4, Frequency Hardpoint. Frequency Hardpoint I did actually quite like. Fringe Search and Destroy from Black Ops 3, Standoff CTF, AW Throwback Hardpoint, Ghost Octane Search and Destroy, Arsenal Control, one of the London Docks, and COD 4 Crash S&D. Oh, for a game 11, my goodness, that'll be incredible. Anyway, let me know what you think below of some of the best maps and modes that we've ever played that would make it into a best out 11 series. Even if you did it as a one map special or something like that, that would be super good. To sort of adapt Octane's idea on that one. Doesn't necessarily have to be a complete throwback series. Maybe just a sprinkle of something completely different in the middle would make it super interesting. I don't know about competitive integrity in terms of learning the whole game just for one map once again, but at the same time I think it would be fun. But this is something that I kind of want to delve into maybe a little bit more carefully. So the European Super League, let's just read through the process. I presume many of you have seen everything happen with European football right now and how much everybody hates the idea of European Super League, where your position is bought instead of earned, and it seems to me almost identical to the current CDL. It's not quite identical. I hate how some of the most talented teams will never have a chance to compete in the big stage and prove themselves against the established names. Some of the best moments from previous champs have been upsets and excitements of seeing new and unknown teams compete. The current format may seem normal to American fans, but I hate it. There needs to be repercussions for those who fail to perform in the top league and rewards for those who do perform below them. I want to see teams competing on merit. The same 12 teams or 16 eventually competing every time is boring. Thoughts? So the European Super League, if you've been living under a rock the past couple of days and you haven't seen the news about everything that's happening in European football, huge football fan myself. I've grown up supporting Newcastle, unfortunately in that sense. But at the same time, football is my sport. That's kind of, it is one of my big passions. I've fallen out of love with it recently because I think, this sort of thing, football's kind of gone in this direction. But to sort of sum it up a little bit, basically, the top teams are wanting to move away to do their own Super League, which is for their own benefit. Moving away from these other teams, potentially, as the Premier League have said, or European clubs have said, they won't be able to compete in their leagues, etc., because it's just the benefit they'd be getting is too much. They want to move away and just do their own Super League that only those teams can be in. And it's kind of like franchising in a sense. I don't think it's not like franchising because of the payment model for franchising. You have to pay in to get in with franchising. This is more so about the already established good teams in an already established league wanting to do something different. Whereas with franchising, yes, okay, we had the CoD League, but the Call of Duty World League, but we didn't necessarily have that, exclusivity of only the top. Like, say if you had a Super League, it would be like your Optic, Envy, like that sort of carry on. It would have been just those guys moving over. In the sense that franchising isn't quite the same, because obviously, like, it was just the start of something. But the point I'm going to go into is something that's said here by Bob Sanity on Reddit. The magic of these teams and these unknown players coming through at champs, it is gone now, isn't it? And I think that's the biggest shame of franchising. The absolute biggest shame. I think franchising has its positive points. I think, as the years go on, this year has been better than last year already. We've got the Challengers coverage, which obviously it's great for me to be involved again. And I really do enjoy it. And I think, the money they're putting into it is good. However, it is that bit of magic that you do miss, isn't it? My favourite event of the year every single year was Champs. And it always come down to, like, the games in between teams who, for example, you had Splice against Team War on Black Ops 4. For most of the year, the teams couldn't get in to play up against the top teams because they were sort of setting up for that franchise model throughout Black Ops 4 where the teams were separated until it came to Champs where they weren't separated, which was good. You talk about the teams like Splice. So what was it? Was it Temp, Hook? I can't quite remember past that, but Jerd. I can't remember the fourth. Horrible from me. Besides the point, we're going up against Team War, and obviously Team War had been doing relatively well throughout the season on the sort of challenger side of things. They came up in second, I think, in the season finals, etc., etc. A very, very good team. The only time we got to see them go up against those top teams was, of course, when we moved over to Champs. And we don't have that anymore. And I think it's created some fantastic moments. I think, nobody would know about a team like Mindfreak and the Australian guys if they didn't get that chance to play up against the big boys every single year and sort of show how good they were. You wouldn't have known about a lot of these players who have come up. The only reason you know about them now is because of the challenger events that are happening separately, and it's just like the franchise team to pick the talent out. They just pick the talent out, which is kind of the only way you ever get to see that. You don't get to see these teams who have made this team work together and created this good unit of players who have perfected their game as best they can in an online environment, then going up against some of the best teams and sort of showing what they got, showing something different. You only have this closed circle of teams going up against each other, and it's disappointing to see, because it would be great to see the fact that some of these challenger teams would come up and obviously cause issues. 100% they would. There's some very, very good sides on the NA and EU challenger side, although the NA challenger side, I'm struggling to even keep up with who's a roster at this point. But besides that point, it is a miss for me. I think it's a huge miss. Let me know what you think below, and if you do miss that sort of thing, because initially I remember being part of, I wasn't part of discussions, but I remember being told, in the Black Ops 4 season, why we took that out. Many a time, I would get my shot on Alpha when I was casting World War II for the games where the teams would come out of the open bracket into the pool play, and they would get smoked. They would, 99% of the time, they would get smoked. But then that's when you would sort of see those players sort of flourish a little bit. That was when you've seen a Beezy for the first time on the E6 roster, and you were like, wow, this guy looks really good. But like, imagine if he had time in it to sort of develop around these other players who are lower down, to then go and like continuously compete. They just sort of cherry pick them away, and it would have been nice to see some of these teams go up and do something up against these CDL teams. But the reason that they don't do that is because these teams have obviously paid in 25 million or whatever it was, more in some cases. They paid that money to get in, and I mean the CDL don't want to see their flagship teams be beaten by challenger teams. That's outside of why a franchise model is there. It's there to, it's not to protect them, but it is a bubble in itself, and it's a competition within itself, and you have to pay the right to play up against them. I just wish that at the end of every year, yes, okay, you have your franchise side, you have your challenger side, just throw them all in and give us a champs kind of thing again. Even if the franchise teams get beat, for me, if I was part of the CDL in the sense of watching that, yes, okay, your teams get beat, but imagine that storyline of, wow, these challenger teams have come up. Imagine the... Dallas Empire just got themselves into like first round, and they go up against somebody like Oglis or the new Team War from Europe or somebody at West or East or whoever's on these rosters now, and they get beat. Like, imagine the storylines that the CoD League could create around that. And I think that's something that is missing from Call of Duty right now, and I would love to see that happen again. I don't think we will in this current model, but the European Super League and the CDL comparisons are definitely linkable. It's not exactly the same, but it does sort of create that conversation of, well, we do miss that threat of relegation. We do miss that threat of being beaten by a team who haven't been there or aren't at your so-called level. So yeah, it's something I would like to see more of, and I hope the CoD League at some point do decide to say, right, okay, yeah, let's put these challengers teams in against them. Let's see what happens at the end of the year. Just something spicy for the off-season to come up. But yeah, very, very interesting topic to discuss, one that could go on for a while. I remember in Spitfire we used to discuss it quite a lot. Well, look what happened on that one. Nonetheless, though, yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, and let me know what you think of it below. Would you like to see the challengers teams play up against CDL teams? I think 99.999% of people would love to see that. We all want to see it. That's why everybody hates the European Super League, because we don't want to see this exclusivity all the time. We want to see these teams go through trials and tribulations up against teams. Everyone likes an underdog story at the end of the day. But that's going to be it for the CoD Catchup today. Please do follow the channel if you have not. Make sure you are subscribed. Leave a like, comment below on some of the topics we have discussed. Would you like to see these challenger teams go up against CoD teams? Of course you would. Again, the one that we were talking about there, what would you have as your number one map to put in there? And the best out of 11, say it was all, of course, in Black Ops Cold War. What one map would you put in? I think the CoD 4 Crash S&D shout is actually a brilliant one down there, and that's from Dracula. I think absolutely CoD 4 Crash S&D was one of my absolute favorites. Like vacant in there. Some phenomenal maps to think about. But again, thank you very, very much for watching. We will see you for the next video.